Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I'm here with the third installment of my positional tier list series that I'm doing on the channel, heading into the 2023 NBA season. We've got here the tiers of MVP candidate, All-NBA, All-Star, Fringe All-Star, Gooder, which I couldn't come up with a better name for, Good and Decent. We're going to go ahead and sort these 30 small forwards into this tier list and see how it goes. Leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy. This is all my opinion, and if you want to tell me what I got wrong, go ahead and comment down below, helps with the algorithm. Starting off with Jayson Tatum, who is going to go in the MVP candidate tier. If you don't know, for a while, I wasn't a huge believer in Jayson Tatum. A few years ago, I thought, he was going to be like an all-star caliber player, but nothing more. I was very wrong, and I'm glad I was. Jayson Tatum is a borderline top 10 player, and I think he's going to make a lot of MVP noise this season, becoming, dominating as the Celtics are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. He's going to have a phenomenal year, and I think he'll be in MVP considerations before the end of it. Then we've got Kelin Johnson, who I think I'm going to put in Fringe All-Star for right now. I think he's severely underrated. I love Kelin Johnson's game. I think he's a guy that won't get a ton of buzz because the Spurs are going to be really bad, but I expect him to jump pretty much like 5-6 points in his scoring. I think he's going to really take over as the lead scorer on that roster. Once again, the Spurs might win like 9 games, but he's going to do a great job of trying to keep them afloat, keeping them competitive in some games. He's really solid. Shout out to him on getting his bag in an extension this offseason too. Josh Hart, I'm going to put in good for right now. He might move up, we'll see, but Josh Hart, phenomenal rebounder. He's a shooter here and there. He can be a bit inconsistent from three-point territory, but he was phenomenal after he got traded to the Blazers last season. I think he's going to be super valuable in that starting lineup, so I think he's going to be pretty good. Then we get to RJ Barrett, who I've been kind of back and forth on when I was preparing for this video. I think I'm going to put him in Fringe All-Star for now. I think RJ Barrett is a guy that, a lot of people are very split on him. A lot of people seem to either hate or they love RJ Barrett. I'm kind of in the middle. I think he could make some All-Star noise this season if he takes a jump. Jalen Brunson coming into town, I think will help him a bit with his scoring. He won't have to handle the ball as much. He's now got a better playmaker who can kind of set him up here and there. He really turned it up at the second half of last season, which is partially why I'm higher on him than maybe some other people, but I like RJ, and I think he could be in all-star conversations. Saddiq Bey, I'm going to put in this gooder tier. He's a guy that can go out and score 50 randomly some nights. Pretty solid shooter, but not the most efficient player. He shot under 40% from the field this past season. I think having two guards like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey next to him will help out a bit, but until he gets his efficiency up, he's going to be below that Fringe All-Star tier. Jaylen Tate is going to go in good defender, a guy that is around 27 years old, I believe. So he's kind of hitting his peak, and he is a guy that is very valuable to any team. He can knock down some shots, he can make some plays, he can create for himself, and also he can play some really solid defense on a couple different positions. He's only 6'4", I believe, but he can guard guys from the 1 through 4 and even some smaller centers. Franz Wagner, I'm going to put in Fringe All-Star. He had a phenomenal rookie season, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. I think he's got a lot of potential to be one of the best players out of this stacked draft class this past year. He can shoot, he can create, he can defend, he can do basically anything. There's nothing on the court that Franz can't do at a potentially high level at some point in his career. DeMar DeRozan is going to go in the All-NBA tier. I don't think he'll replicate what he did last season, where he was an MVP candidate for a lot of the year, but I do think he will still be in All-NBA considerations. He made All-NBA third team this past year, and with Lonzo Ball out to start the season, according to sources from, I think it was Woj or Shams, someone like that, Lonzo's probably not going to start the year, so they're going to need a guy like DeRozan to step up more and create for himself as well as others, and I think he just, he'll do that. Then we get to Kawhi Leonard, who I'm going to put in the MVP candidate tier 2. Who knows if he'll even play enough games to really be in consideration, but I think this Clippers team is stacked. I think they could be the best team in the West this upcoming season. They're one of my championship favorites, and Kawhi Leonard, a year after coming off injury, he might start a bit slow, but by the end of the season, he's going to be Kawhi Leonard again, in my opinion. One of the best players in the league, arguably top 5 when healthy. He's going to remind a lot of people who he is. Then we get to Tobias Harris. who I think honestly is capable of making an all-star game, but I'm going to put him in this fringe all-star tier. I think people underrate Tobias because of his contract, but he's still really solid. Tobias Harris is not a bad player at all. People look at him as he's much lower than his contract, which, yeah, he isn't a max contract player, but he still is really, really good. And so he's a guy that a couple seasons ago was in all-star conversations. This past year, he really struggled. He was coming back from COVID. I believe there was an injury going on with him too. He just had a couple different things that were kind of bothering him. But now that he's got James Harden in town, I expect him to have some pretty good shot opportunities, more than he had to create for himself last season. He's going to have a lot more created for him. And I think that could lead to a jump in efficiency, allow him to focus more defensively. And I think Tobias could be in for a really good year. Chris Middleton is going to go an all-star. Every single year he plays, he's going to be an all-star consideration. He's just that type of player. He's a guy that is really going to, go out, get you buckets. He's never going to be like the most heralded player in the NBA outside of that one time where media was trying to paint him as the best player in the Bucks after the Heat series back in the bubble. Dark times that we were in there, but Chris Middleton is really good. He's not super flashy, but he's always going to get the job done. Then we get to Will Barton, who I'm a little bit lower on than some people. At this point, he's getting older. He's not a great defender. He stops the ball a little bit. I'm going to put him on decent. I don't know how he necessarily is going to fit for the Washington Wizards with that team. I think they need more of a guy who's kind of just a 3-and-D guy straight up. Doesn't need the ball as much like Will Barton might. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if Barton honestly comes off the bench and you put a guy like Denny into the starting lineup. But for right now, I think Will Barton is kind of the starter, so I'll put him there. Joe Harris, I'm going to put in the good tier. He's a guy that can absolutely torch you from deep. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Another guy that I think because he makes a decent bit of money, people forget how good he is. I could even move him up a tier, to be honest. I'll leave him here for right now, but Joe Harris is a guy that hopefully is able to stay healthy this upcoming season because he will shoot the absolute light. He might shoot 50% from three with the opportunities he's going to get from Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant sharing the court with him, as well as Seth Curry. LeBron James, it's LeBron James. He's an MVP candidate. We don't need to talk more about that. Brandon Ingram, I'm going to put him in, I might put him in All-NBA, which might seem kind of crazy. I'm going to put him there for right now. We might move him down to All-Star, but I'm going to put Brandon Ingram in All-NBA for now. I think the Pelicans are going to be really, really good this upcoming season, and so I think he could make some noise for that. He's for sure, in my opinion, going to be in those All-Star conversations, but I think he could even crack All-NBA this season. For Dort, I'm going to put him in this gooder tier. Pretty solid great defender. A guy who's, continuously getting better offensively. I think he'll only get more efficient as more talent gets put around him and the rest of OKC. Once again, I'm also biased on this. I just dropped a video on Dort yesterday as I'm recording this, so go ahead and check that video out on my channel. It was all about his Game 7 performance a couple of years ago, but Dort is kind of underrated, I think, by people. He improved a lot last season scoring around the rim. Really, the key to his game is him just getting better as a three-point shooter, which I think he can do. Mikal Bridges, I'm going to put in fringe all-star. He was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. He's a guy that I think could make a little bit of noise for that if he steps up more offensively, which I think he can. I don't know if he will because, he's got Chris Paul and Devin Booker on his team, as well as DeAndre Ayton, who kind of all overshadow him. But he's a guy that I think could be in those conversations. Same with OG Anunoby, and he was a guy that was kind of supposed to take a jump last year, but he really didn't. Scotty Barnes came into town and kind of overshadowed him a little bit. I still think he's capable of that jump. I think he will have a pretty good year, alongside that talent that they have on the roster. Fred VanVleet, they've got Gary Trent Jr., they've got talent around him for him to kind of thrive. It's just a matter of can he do that, and I think he has the capability, so I'm going to put him there. Bojan Bogdanovic, I don't know. I'll put him in good for right now. I think Bojan's going to have kind of a down season, in my opinion, now that Donovan Mitchell's not in the roster, Mike Conley. It also depends where he gets traded because he's not going to end up on the Jazz. But I think wherever he gets moved, he's not going to be as featured as much. He was a guy who could score like 17, 18 points per game these past few seasons. He's getting older. I think he's going to start to take a little more of a backseat role. He's not a good defender anymore. You kind of have to have pieces around him for him to be his most effective. So I'm going to put him here. This might be a little bit disrespectful. I'm just anticipating a bit of a drop. Gordon Hayward, I'm going to put in this gooder tier 2. He's really solid when he's healthy. He just really can't stay healthy. The Hornets are going to need him to step up in a big way this upcoming season now that Miles Bridges is no longer on the squad. I'm interested to see how it goes. Gordon Hayward, once again, he's not super old. He's like 32, 33 at this point. He's been an all-star kind of fringe guy the past few seasons when healthy. I just think injuries are going to kind of start to catch up to him. Isaac Okoro is going to go indecent. He has the capability to be a really solid 3-and-D player. He's just kind of knocked down shots. He's a guy who really is a key to this new look Cleveland squad. Since I did the shooting guard video, Donovan Mitchell, of course, now on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's a guy that is really the key to everything. I think he'll probably start at the 3 for them. He can play defense. They just need him to knock down some shots. Dorian Finney-Smith is going to go in the good tier as well. Once again, just kind of a guy that does everything that you need. 3-and-D, which is like a lot of what these small forwards are. Michael Porter Jr., I'm going to put in the fringe all-star category. His defense leaves a lot to be desired, but offensively, when he was healthy last season, and especially the year before, Michael Porter Jr. was one of the most efficient offensive players we've seen at his age in a very long time. He was ridiculous, and that offensive firepower is part of why the Nuggets look so scary this upcoming season. But the question is, can he stay healthy, and is it a liability to have him on the court defensively? Those are questions that are going to have to be answered this upcoming season. And the Nuggets gave him a max contract a couple of off seasons ago, so they better hope that the answer is he can, step it up defensively and he can stay on the court. Andrew Wiggins is tough because he is an all-star, right? He was just an all-star starter. But also part of that was because of the reason he was a starter was because of the fan vote type stuff. I'm going to put him at fringe all-star for right now. I might move him up just because I think he's on a similar tier to guys like Tobias Harris. But I think part of him being in that Golden State Warriors system allows him to thrive. I love Andrew Wiggins. He's been one of my favorite stories this past year. A great defensive player, a great offensive player too. He's beginning to continuously get better on that side of the court. He can rebound when he decides to, like he did in the finals. Wiggins is just a perfect connector piece, and I think he's right there where, I could see him making the All-Star game again this year, but I also wouldn't be surprised at all if he missed it. Buddy Hield, I'm going to put in gooder, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, a guy who averaged, I think, like 18 points per game this past season. He can do a little bit of anything for you offensively, and any team would love to have him. In trade rumors as well. Dylan Brooks, I'm going to put in this good tier 2. Defensively, he's one of those guys that championship teams love to have, where he's a hard-nosed defender. He's going to make the hustle plays, but his shot selection is really, really rough. He can shoot his team out of games sometimes. They need him to kind of rein that in a little bit, I think, for him to be his most effective, but he is still a player that I'm sure any number of winning team would love to have him. Next, we've got Martin for the Miami Heat. I'm going to put him on decent. I also don't even know if he's going to start. Right now, the Heat just don't have a power forward, so I'm envisioning Jimmy moves over to the 4 and Martin starts at the 3. But I'm honestly not sure. He's solid, though. He'll be fine if he does have to start there. Jay McDaniels, I'm also... Do I want to put him in decent or good? I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to believe in Jaden McDaniels. I'm a believer in his game. I think he's got a lot more than what we've seen from him so far. He's a solid defender. I think his offensive capability is much higher than people give him credit for, and I think he's going to get a lot of great looks and opportunities with so much scoring around him. And of course, you've got Cat, you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got D'Angelo Russell, who can score here and there. Rudy Gobert is also going to, command more attention when he gets down low, so it's going to open up the game for him a little bit. Then you get to DeAndre Hunter, who I think DeAndre Hunter is going to have a really good year. I'm going to put him in this gooder tier. He's a guy that, you've got DeJounte Murray and you've got Trae Young as playmakers, so I think he's going to get a lot of good looks. And finally, we've got Keegan Murray, who I'm really high on. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year, and I'm going to put him in this gooder tier as well. I think he's going to be huge for the Kings as a connecting piece alongside De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, as well as guys like Harrison Barnes. He's a guy that I think could have a really good year and maybe make Rookie of the Year noise. This is my tier list. I don't know how I feel about it. I might change it if I look at it for 5 more minutes, as I have said for the other 2. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it here for now. Like I said, let me know what I got wrong in the comments below. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see y'all later. A real one, say it back.